Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and today's book trek video, I'm going to be talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson and Gregory Mone's Astrophysics for Young People in a Hurry, which I listened to on audiobook, read by LeVar Burton, who, of course, played Geordi LaForge on Star Trek The Next Generation. It's just a short audiobook for young people that I'll talk about in just a moment, but I'm doing something a little bit different today. Right now, I'm filming on a blisteringly hot day, and every day has been like that in New England, so I had to run errands anyway, so I'm out here. And this is the McCarthy Observatory, I guess, in New Milford, Connecticut. We are a town who was lucky enough to have an observatory. You can see it there. And behind me is a scale model of the sun. One of the things that was pretty cool when they built this observatory, which is actually located at the high school, they created a scale model installation across the town of the solar system, with, of course, the sun being right here at the observatory. So I'm not going to show every little bit of the installation. I'll show some footage here that you can see it goes for quite a few miles, but we'll stop further on in town where Neptune is, and also at the very end where the Kuiper Belt is. And once we're at the Kuiper Belt, I'll talk a little bit more about the audiobook. All right, hopefully you'll stick around for the journey. Thanks. So here we are 3.7 miles away from where we just were with the sun, and we are at Neptune. This installation, unfortunately, there used to be a little planet up here, but somebody stole it and it has not been replaced. But this part of the installation is located over at the public library. This is part of the public library, one of the older buildings. They have just built this middle section here. It's not quite done. And this is also a part of the old building. We're over here in the center of New Milford, over at the town green. You can't quite see it behind those trees, but it is a great thing that this town has to have this installation. I wish that, once again, we had a little planet up there, and I do remember it being very small. So you remember how big that sun was behind me? This is like a little marble. So when we're talking scale size, these planets are far smaller than our sun. And now we're going to be heading over to the Kuiper Belt. Okay, so we are now 6.7 miles away from the sun, and we are at the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud. At the vast distance, the frontier of our solar system, made up mostly of comets. And luckily this installation actually still has its comet, which is quite nice. So, Astrophysics for Young People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson and Greg Mone. Now, of course, Neil deGrasse Tyson had released another book, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry, which presumably was one for adults. I have not read that, but I did listen to the audiobook for Astrophysics for Young People in a Hurry, which I had mentioned before was narrated by LeVar Burton, who played Geordi LaForge on Star Trek The Next Generation, and who, of course, is no stranger to reading to young people, having hosted Reading Rainbow for I don't know how many years now. And it's a book that is really targeted for, from what I can tell, around the 10-year-old mark. 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe 7th grade. The references are mostly to 5th graders or middle schoolers that they use throughout. And it's just a few hours of the audiobook, but it's a nice introduction to basic astrophysics. We're talking things like black holes, quarks, introducing matters of light. It's a nice little book. It was, LeVar Burton, because I think it's for a younger audience, he does read it kind of slow. I certainly sped up the speed on the audiobook to 1.5%, so it's a little bit more adult paced. But I did enjoy it. You can tell that Tyson is really going for the kind of effect that Sagan had in a lot of ways, to impart in some way the wonder of science and the wonder of the universe and studying astronomy and astrophysics and what that can do, not just, intellectually, but, on a more personal sense, more emotional sense, that it can provide a terrific amount of wonder. Now, I just did this scale model of our solar system and drove 6.7 miles, which is not out of the way. This installation that I'm at, I'm still over by the Kuiper Belt. If you hear that little knocking in the back, that's a flagpole, because I'm at an elementary school, actually. It's actually on my way home, so I don't have to go out of the way at all for what I just did. But it's a reminder of just how small we are, right? That sun that was behind me was huge. The model of the Earth on these little installations is like the size of a marble. And that sort of large disparity in size can, of course, make some people feel insignificant within the universe. But it can also do the opposite. It can create wonder and awe. And that's what things like Astrophysics for Young People in a Hurry tries to impart. That's also what Star Trek tries to impart. The wonder of humanity, the wonder of just being an existent entity. How lucky we are to exist at a time when, especially now, where we can actually understand the universe and be a part of it. And we can be the way that the universe knows itself. So I would recommend the audiobook for people who really have no basic understanding yet of astrophysics. If you want something that's light, that within a few hours you'll get the basics down, I think it's perfectly fine. And I think it'd be pretty good for young listeners as well. Now, on this property, there's also a free library that I'm going to go check and see if there's anything for my kids. So we can look in there together. All right, let's do that now. So we do have this nice little free little library. There's actually the Oort cloud and Kepler belt installation right behind it. Oh, put a little lock here. Just to see if there's anything in here that either of my kids would be interested in. I see we got some Tractor MacBooks here. Just recently, we were with the author and illustrator Billy Steers here at a kind of a party function barbecue right around where the 4th of July. He was there, and he was kind enough to actually draw some animals for my kids. A very, very nice guy. Let's see. We already have all the Harry Potter books. Your name's Steve. Huh. There's one for Steve Donahue, one of our co-hosts. Okay, nothing in here right now for our kids. Our kids actually do have quite an extensive library of their own, but I'll definitely check this again at one point to see if anything pops up. So let's close that up and lock it. So if you made it this far, thank you very much for coming along on the journey. I hope that you're coming along on Book Trek as well, reading Star Trek, but also indulging and learning a little bit more about science, about our planet, ourselves, and our universe. And as always, thank you, BookTube.